Hey, welcome everybody. I want to thank all of you guys for jumping in tonight. Here we are, 9 p.m. We're running a couple minutes behind. That's not new with us anyway. So, again, I want to welcome everybody here. I want to bring the crew in here and our guest. I think we're gonna have another great podcast tonight. Very interesting discussion. I'm looking forward to seeing where this is gonna go tonight. So, for you guys, there's no strangers here. Melissa and David Lester. And tonight we have Mr. Kev Lestarge. I'm going to ask him if I butchered his last name.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
Oh, good, good. I have a habit of destroying and butchering people's names. So
As well as yours. A lot of people
yeah,
can't pronounce your last name.
yeah. A lot of them are familiar with it because they follow wrestling and everything. A lot of them. Benoit is kind of a it's seems to be common with some people. Then again, like what? I've heard it pronounced with letters that don't even exist in it. Like, oh, Banog. Where do you get that from? I don't get it, but it's whatever. Um, well, Kev, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. This is great that you're going to be with us tonight, and I'm excited to see where this is going to go.
Yeah,
and
thanks for having me.
Oh, for sure, for sure. We do have a live chat. I'm sure you're no strangers to these podcasts or something. I'm sure you understand how they go. Yeah, we do try our best to pay attention to the live chat, which I'm going to try to bring that up right now.
Yeah, that's great. I'll do this a lot for work, so I will be happy to chime in on and answer any questions that I get real time if I can.
Oh, all right, good deal. Well, I think we should go ahead and jump right into this. We got people already with us watching. We got the live chat, got it there right now. So could you take back, kind of what got you involved with the whole research? I mean, what brought you into all this?
Yeah. Well, again, before I get started, thanks again, Daniel and David and Melissa. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on the show. So this all kind of started back in about 1995. That is when the internet was starting to come online, and I always kind of joke that I had my Me Millennium, which is like a type of Microsoft computer, and the first thing I would search for was Bigfoot, and I happened upon a BFRO website. But even before then, I think it takes it. I take it back to I would always get in trouble a lot because I would always want to watch scary movies as a kid and the monster movies, and I would get in trouble because I would always keep me up late. But then I think it was right about they came out in '87, but then Harry and the Hendersons obviously very much affected my life. I'm drinking the mug here. So it's definitely stayed with me, obviously, but that was
I just
such.
watched. Yeah, real quick. I just watched that last night for the first time with my grandson. I've seen it numerous times, but my grandson got to watch it for the first time yesterday. Yeah, he's 5. So,
what did you think of it?
I thought he liked it. I mean, he was laughing at it, so I was glad he enjoyed it.
Well, I mean, what you might not know, Daniel, is you might have planted the Bigfoot bug in him. So now, forevermore, he might want to be chasing it. But because that's what happened to me. I saw that movie, and I Bigfoot was always kind of in the peripheral, and I kind of heard about it. Growing up in Wisconsin, I mean, we've had our own stories of things like that here. That was probably the genesis, if you will, of what is this? I need to explore more. So I would say that movie was it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did that get you involved in any groups that you joined up to go out and explore with, or you do it on your own?
Yeah, you know what, David? So I actually, by researching the BFRO Bigfoot Field Research Organization, that was the first tipping point of and then obviously the Finding Bigfoot show, and then realizing that you can go out there and you can pay to have these gatherings and be kind of brought into these high activity spots, so to speak. And so that's actually where I picked up with the BFRO. I guess, never became an actual member or had gotten ever tapped on the shoulder to do any investigation. I mean, I was still in college, going to school, trying to finish things up, starting work. Like, I just didn't have the time to become an investigator. But that was I went on several expeditions, but in fact, it was the first one in Los Alamos, New Mexico, which was the one where we had basically a Class B experience. I'm happy to get into that right away if you'd like, but that's where things got kicked off there.
What is it? I'm not familiar with classes as far as that. Class B? Just go through the classes of what they have. Yeah. If Daniel knows, we haven't gotten that part with Daniel on that. We've only been with him 5 years, but I didn't know there were different categories like that.
Deanna, do you want to go ahead and explain that?
Well, I can try my best. I know Class A is like the top up there. Is actually a visual sighting. I know the other ones. I'm not familiar with. Class A is always more the ones I'm more clean on because I know that's like a clear, straight visual. I don't want to butcher up the other ones. I mean, one's more of like sometimes they can be related to vocals and close activity, but
that's basically a Class B. Is anything vocal that you hear? So in fact, I'm happy to get into more of the detail of the story, but
feel free.
Absolutely.
All right,
go ahead.
So setting this up, so Los Alamos, this was our first expedition. This was where I actually have brought in a family member with me, just to kind of see what this whole experience with the BFRO was like. For those who are familiar with, or maybe not familiar with Finding Bigfoot, this was Met Moneymaker's kind of organization of groups of people throughout the entire U.S. who are kind of in each state, more or less, besides Hawaii, who are finding Bigfoot, right? So at this point in time, I was kind of living in Texas, and so it wasn't the farthest drive to get to New Mexico, so that's where we decided to go. And this is where everything kind of kicked off, like I had said. And, the first night, I wasn't super familiar with camping. I'll just put that out there. I didn't know what I was seeing or hearing, or, my eyes were still kind of getting used to the forest and how dark it can actually get, and what shapes and things look like and shadows against the, the backdrop of a fire, so those were, when you have those kind of dancing shadows and things like that, you're kind of just in for the ride. But what it really was, so the first night we kind of, sat around, talked about things of what the 3-day was going to entail. And the first night when we did finally kind of go out, I mean, immediately, we already kind of had heard some, what was, this is kind of a buzzword for some of those, but this very lumberous walking, where you heard this crunch, 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 and it had a rhythm to it, which just was, it seemed like this was a tall being. This was maybe about 100 yards, perhaps, again, being new to the woods, that's just what I can surmise, that's how far it was away. And so this was maybe about 100 yards, but you kind of hear this walking, and then nothing really happened, but it was kind of exciting because, we're radioing in, like, are you hearing this? Is anyone else there? Like, who could be there? And, the leaders of this group was saying everyone's accounted for. And unless it's someone just walking in the woods, it's bipedal. That's the big takeaway there. That was night 1. Night 2 is where it really changed my life, because there was this trail that went down kind of where our tent was, and just kind of meandered. We didn't know quite where it went. It's just this kind of hiking trail, if you will. So then it was me, again, family member, and this other fella, and then another guy, and then one of the other kind of leaders, if you will, of the BFRO. And this guy, just to put this out there, this guy was like 6'7", 6'8". I mean, he was a tall fella, at least what I recollect. And so I'll get back to why that's important. But we decided to kind of go down this path, all 5 of us, but then it kind of split off. And so the tall fella and another person, they kind of took one direction, myself, family member, and this other guy, we went the other. And we kind of huddled and said, let's just, what's our game plan? And I kind of said, let's just try this. Let's see if we can kind of walk every 30 feet or so and stop in the shadows of these trees that are kind of really well lit, because it was a very full moonlight. And I think that's important, because a lot of Bigfooters will kind of tell you that maybe no moon is best, or half moon, or full moon. But I have to say that the best experiences that I've ever had is with the full moon. And up in this Los Alamos area, up in the mountains, it was so deadly quiet that you could actually kind of hear your pulse beating in your ear. There was no flies, no mosquitoes, no nothing, no wind. So as we're kind of continuing this little test of starting and stopping in the shadow line of these trees, we came to a stop and we kind of were paused. Well, sure enough, there was this little trickle pebble just kind of came down this mountainside or hill, and we kind of looked, and you're supposed to kind of give coordinate, or kind of give a clock reference as, did you hear your 6? Yeah, I didn't catch it. Yeah, I caught it, something like that. But everyone kind of heard this pebble, me and these 2 other guys. And so we didn't have, then this is on us. We were novice, but we didn't have any recording equipment. We didn't have any night vision. That came later in expeditions, but it was just us there experiencing. So we acknowledged that there was this pebble that trickled down, and I didn't see anything. I mean, you could kind of see into the forest because of this moon was so bright, but didn't see anything. Maybe we took another 10 or 20 steps to get further down into this trail, and then we heard this deep, and then again, buzzword, kind of guttural growl that was so deep in the base. Literally, it kind of, I could still remember, like your shirt just kind of trembles a little bit on your chest. And if I can reenact it the best I can, but it came across as kind of this. Wow. And it just kind of, we all looked at each other. And it was an immediate reaction of stop, go back, do not come any further. That was the sentiment that we had gotten. In a million things are kind of rushing through, again, a new person's head, thinking, well, that wasn't a wolf, it wasn't a cat, maybe a bear. Like, these things would have maybe let themselves know or not know that they're there, because they're going to try to, eat you or whatever it might be. But this thing let us know that it was there, and not to. I mean, again, the sentiment I got was, "Don't come any further."
Wow. Yeah, what you imitated there reminds me of David before his coffee.
Before what?
Or after?
Could you back us up on? I'm just curious, what state is this taking place in?
This is in New Mexico. Yeah, Los Alamos. New Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. And New Mexico is an interesting, state, because there are, mountain ranges like Monkey Mountain and things like that, which are borrowed from, the Indians or Native Americans in that area, and that's directly because of, I believe, their experiences, and so they're naming those areas like that. So this was Los Alamos, and so when that happened, we all kind of said, all right, we're out of our element. We need to go back. We need to radio this, BFRO leader, the big guy. So finally radioed him once we kind of got into the signal. He said, yeah, come, we're at the pass, or we'll meet you at that, where we kind of split up, but you can kind of start walking our direction. So we finally got to the splitting up point. We kind of started heading in their direction towards their path. And this is a part of the story where I don't know quite what to make of it, but I'll share it because I believe some others have had experiences like this. But I saw this grapefruit with a larger kind of glow around it orb, or a light that was in the forest. And at first I said, "Oh, I think I see you. You're right there." And he responded back and was like, "There's no way, like, you got to walk a good 10 minutes before you're even like around anywhere where you are. Like, that's not us." And I didn't make anything of it. Okay, like the mission is to get grouped together. Didn't think anything of it. To kind of fast forward the next day, when I did go back to where we were and to think about what it was that I saw, that light was actually in the middle of a tree line, 20, 30 feet above the ground, because it kind of dipped. Actually, the path dipped and this tree line. So, like, that wasn't a person.
About how far away? Average. Well, what would you guess?
30, 40 yards, 30, 40 yards. I mean, 50, 50
so it's
tops.
Right there.
Yeah, I mean, it was enough to be like, oh, there they are. Because I said it out loud. The guys I was with heard it, like, oh, where? But so I see this thing, and like I said, it was this kind of amberish glow, which I thought was actually the red glow of a
like a headlamp,
nightlight, the headlamp, right?
Right, yeah.
No, it wasn't them. We met up, told this person, his name is Bill, told Bill what happened. We walked back. This is where we got growled at. We kept walking. And actually we reached a meadow. Gorgeous meadow. The moon again was just lighting everything. You could see down it, up it. It was this kind of this little bit of like a incline or decline, if you will. But then on the other side, there's another forest line. Well, let's keep walking. As we're kind of walking through this meadow, Bill says to me and the rest of us, "Now I'm going to stop you because I just need to make sure that if anything happens and if we get bluff charged, to put your head down and just sit down and don't look at it in the eyes." Like as if this was an African safari and someone was telling us, "Hey, if a silverback gorilla looks at you and charges, just sit down and don't look at it in the eyes." It was the same thing. And at that moment, I had to really reflect quickly of what it is that we're doing here and acknowledge that if something does happen, number one, I have to acknowledge that this thing exists and to not lose my, dinner. And then number two, I have to just sit down calmly, right? You just give a verbal, "Yep, sure, works for us," and you keep moving. So that's what we did. We all kind of gave this verbal, acceptance. We kept going. As we kind of reached, again, this was the meadow was maybe only about 80 yards, if that, across, and we were already kind of there. So this was a very quick acknowledge and continue. And so then once we finally got to just about 20 feet from the edge of the next forest line, Bill kind of whipped out this, wood blocker. He said, "Let me try something." And so he hits this wood blocker, nothing. I think he did it again, nothing. Okay, well, let's continue. Let's see what happens. As soon as we got maybe about 10 or again another 20 feet into this forest line, this is when we actually had a tree get cracked, crunched. It starts coming down. You hear the leaves hitting other leaves and twigs and things are popping, and it's just coming down. And this was maybe, I would say 50 yards from where we were, if that even. What was very alarming at this point is that all of a sudden there was this massive rumble that started happening. And sure enough, there was mountain cattle that was in this forest line, about 30 of them, that all had gotten up, and it was a stampede out of that forest line into the meadow, and you could see it. And it was just like, it was, I didn't know what was happening. And I always kind of say this part of the story where I'll be vulnerable and share that I reached back for that family member because I thought this might be it. I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. And what was interesting about that is we five guys with boots and gear and crap and just kind of walking. None of that spooked this cattle. What spooked this cattle was the fact that there was this massive, not massive, but like there was a good, when we checked it later on, 5 to 6 inch in diameter. I mean, that's not nothing. Tree get kind of cracked and popped and pushed down. That spooked them. So once they all kind of ran down and it kind of settled down again, one of the guys did have, I think, a FLIR or some type of a night vision camera. And so he goes, I'm trying to get my camera. And he didn't quite know how to work it, which kills me every time I tell this story. But it's like, give it to somebody, like, what are you doing? And we were just trying to get our bearings and trying to understand what's happening in the cattle and like, where is this thing? What's going to happen next? And then you just hear this lumberous crunch as it just kind of walks further on down, and it just kind of disappeared or dissipated, this walking noise. And at that point, we were informed that, when typically you get a tree knocked down, game over, and you're never going to like catch up to this thing, and B, the next thing that it could do might start to get aggressive.
Right.
And so it was at that point where we decided maybe we need to head back, regroup, get all the data written down and told and said like that. And I mean, we were up for hours after that. I don't even know if we went to bed. Not until the morning, but like, that was the big, I mean, talk about a grand finale at your second night out ever going Bigfooting. So that was that story.
Oh, for sure.
And that's your first time really being in the woods. Is that what you said?
Pretty much, David. Yeah. So, I mean, that
in that capacity.
In that capacity. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not a hunter. At that point, I was not a big camping person.
Well, that's fine. I was just curious because you got a lot of it. You're basically your first. Let's back up to the light a second. When you seen that light, I'm trying to make a comparison here of what we experienced.
Yeah, because his sounds different. He mentioned amber colors. So ours was more.
I got the amber part.
Yeah.
I don't know if colors really matter, but as far as the light itself, did it look pure? Did it look like it radiated any like energy? Did it illuminate the area around it or project a beam like a flashlight, or it was just there?
It was almost as if someone had turned their red headlamp on, but they were in like a tree stand, to where you could see a focal point of it. It illuminated at one specific spot. It kind of got, and the illumination kind of dissipated after maybe about this big. Okay. This was about the size of it, and then I think about a basketball size was the glow of it, and that was kind of it.
So it didn't behave like a normal type light. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. It didn't flutter or flicker or oscillate. Any of that.
The communication to be like a flashlight, other than what you presumed it might have been. It didn't come across like a floodlight, a flashlight.
No.
Somebody with the light, they could move it at full moon that night.
Yeah.
So therefore, you still have some ambient light in there, but that did not interfere with the ambient light at all, to where it had its own light source besides.
Yeah. I mean, this is, the way I would say it is, yes, it had its own light source. This was not like a stream of light. It wasn't something that projected. And at that point, we were under enough, forest cover. The moon was really it was hard to get through that. And so this is where it just was very clear, to where, again, I was saying, oh, I see you guys, you're right there. And
and that's natural.
Yeah.
That's a natural thought, because there's other people out there. Well, I'm only asking this because last May, real quick, without getting a lot of detail, for my first time, and Daniel was with me and two other people, we seen a white pure light in the woods, about maybe 6 to 8 inches diameter, about 40 yards away, about 3 to 4 foot off the ground. Nighttime, around 10 o'clock at night, and it didn't project any light, radiate any light. It didn't look like it was electrified or anything like that. Just a white, round, pure light. I've seen it for about 2 seconds. I got Daniel's attention. When he's seen it, he looked at it for about 2 seconds. So we've seen it roughly 4 to 5 seconds before it went out.
Yep.
Thermals didn't take up no extra heat, no nothing. Nothing, animals or anything was in that area. It didn't leave back any kind of a heat source. We don't know what that was. I mean,
yeah, and at that point,
so you're not alone.
I don't know. Yeah, and I appreciate that. I don't know what it was either. This is where, as you get into the Bigfoot conversations and different viewpoints, it kind of does perhaps bring some of the, again, another buzzword like the woo, more of the paranormal.
It raises questions, but we can't pinpoint. It raises questions. Just like we had other things happen too, but we're out looking for Bigfoot, cryptid type, whatever. But then other things happen when you're looking for that one specific thing. Now that leads into more questions on what the heck is going on out here.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a lot of things happen besides that. Not Bigfoot related, paranormal related.
Stuff throwing us into the
and it's all primitive. Where we go camping, it's all primitive. You take in what you go to camp with, you take out what you take it out when you leave.
What are some of those experiences that you both have had, if I could ask?
Well, all of us. This past year, for the first time, we've been going there for the last 3 years. September 2024, a couple come down from Pennsylvania real quick. Paul and Cheryl, and I showed them where they could park at the gate to walk to the lake, which was just right at a mile walk to the lake. We were all packing up, getting ready to leave, but they was going to finish up the weekend because they got down there a little late. So while we were packing up, they went for the walk. They came back from the walk a couple hours later. We was packed up. We was waiting for them to get back so we could wash the trailer. It's primitive, but you still got to be wary of people coming around stealing stuff. It does happen out there. They'll sit up on the ridge line with binoculars and look at some of the campsites around, wait for people to leave, and then they'll go down and hijack their stuff. It's rare that happens, but just a thing. We always look after each other's stuff. But when they got back, we stopped to say goodbye to them, and Cheryl says, yeah, I seen a bear. And Craig said, yeah, we was getting out of the truck and seen a bear up on the embankment, running down the embankment across the road, down into the ravine, going down toward the stream bed that's back here. I mean, we've all know what that area is. Just about maybe 30 to 40 yards from the gate. And I looked at Craig and I says, then I looked at his wife again. I says, when it ran across the road, was it on one leg or there two? She said 2 legs.
Yeah.
And as fast as it ran and the description she gave, to me, I told her that does not sound like a bear. Because bears don't run on 2 legs like that. No. They may get up on 2 legs and hobble forward a little bit kind of fast, but they don't have the body structure or the hip structure to be able to run like a primate, run like a person, you know what I mean? And but that was that time. Then that was September 2024. The last May, we seen that ball of light in the woods one night. 20 minutes before that, another guy with us from Richmond, Drew, before we seen that light to get us heading back to camp, he seen eye shine off in the field where we left him at, a couple of sets of eye shine. He couldn't identify what it was. And the grass is out there anywhere from 2 to 4 foot high. It's sporadic. It's like an open field before you get to the wood line again, because this is a national forest.
Yeah, it was something approaching him.
That spooked him pretty good. Mm-hmm. And so much so, he started walking away, and it was pacing him a little bit. He got out of his whistle and started blowing a whistle, which we didn't know he had. We didn't hear no whistle. And that didn't spook it at all. Well, he got spooked. He headed back to camp, pretty good pace. Melissa in the back of base camp, seen his light bopping and bouncing around, coming back to camp.
Really? Watching these 360.
Yeah. Melissa called us on the radio and gave us a brief thing. They Drew just seen some eye shine out in the woods, and it spooked him quite a bit. So we turned around and started heading back to camp. And about 200 yards from where Drew had his encounters, where we seen the light. Mm-hmm. And we're still heading back to camp.
So how far was the orb for you?
About 35 to 40 yards away.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in the sky. It wasn't up in the trees. It was down towards the ground, almost eye level. Man, you could tell by your eyes where you're looking at.
Okay.
And we didn't have a full moon. Now, there was a little bit of ambient light in the wood line to where you could see shadows here and there and whatnot, but it was pretty dark. But it didn't throw a beam of light. It didn't light us up like a flashlight. It didn't radiate any ambient light around it.
Yeah, this area was pretty thick and bushy. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Little thick
and the thing of it is, Daniel's seen it, so I know what a figment of my imagination. I think Pete might. Well,
Pete mentioned he saw it briefly. Yeah.
yeah, sort of briefly. He was a little further back behind and looking over in that same area. I don't know what got his attention unless you heard me and Daniel talking. But anyway, that's when we seen the light. So we headed back to camp to get Drew's account on what he experienced and stuff like that. Now, bear in mind, this area here is all in the same general area where Cheryl had her encounter with something running across the road. Mm-hmm. We've seen the light. Drew has his experience in the wood line. I mean, in the field towards the wood line. And all that was in May. Then now this past September, we were out there camping. We didn't see a light. We started having electrical issues. Radio's going dead, batteries going dead, coming back to life. Daniel had one with his flashlight. He was out there in the weekend by himself. My DJI Action 4, I was letting Melissa use it. I was trying to replicate a sound. This is all primitive. We don't have power lines, power sources, or nothing out there. I mean, this is out in the woods. And one night, I've been recording with this for several years, and this one night, me, Daniel, Craig, and Drew went to a campsite that wasn't being occupied, about maybe a quarter mile, half a mile from where we were camping at. While we were walking down into where the fire pit was, I picked up this static on my Action 4. You faintly hear it, gets louder and louder and louder, and then just shuts off. It lasted for about maybe 5 or 6 seconds. My first thought was it could have been a bug. But then again, I didn't hear anything that night. And I didn't discover this until the next day when I was going back and listening to the recordings from the night before. Got them involved in it. Danny recorded part of it. But then that next night, Melissa was wanting to go out on the hike with us. So I stayed back at base camp. So I was letting her use my Action 4. When I got it on her chest and ready to go, a little while later, before they got what's going on the hike, she came and says my action cam turned on by itself. Now it's not an easy button to push in. You just can't tap it; it comes on. It's weatherproof. It's got the real hard rubber around it for weather.
Just like a GoPro, basically the same thing.
You got to press in for about a half a second. I mean, pressing in for it to make contact.
Yeah.
I shut it off. A little while later, I was in the tent getting ready to. I was making some coffee. And Melissa came back in. It turned on by itself again. We turned it off, and then she leaves. And then a few seconds later, my MP3 player on the table inside the tent, I seen the light come on. It turned on by itself. I've never had that happen before. It just don't make any sense. Now, keep in mind, all this is the same area.
And it's my take on it, though, is that, I mean, personally, I don't know how much into the correlation and causation side of things with Bigfoot, with these strange lights, and we don't know.
We don't know, and we can't pinpoint one way or the other. We can only tell what we experienced, what was happening. People can make their own conclusions.
That's right.
We're not going to jump down the rabbit hole and be saying it's Bigfoot related. We don't know. You know, it could be strictly paranormal for something else. Now, we've grew up with paranormal stuff. We actually got on video and everything ourselves. But we don't know. But I mean, it's just things are really happening now when we're camping out. We don't have an explanation for it. That's why I was wanting a correlation between the light you've seen, so I can make a comparison. If it was, I mean, they're different. You hear stories of lights all over the place. So that's my first time. I want to see if it was emulated something like what we had seen. No projection of light. It was just there forever. How long? I don't know how long it was there before we seen it, but we only seen it maybe 4, maybe 5 seconds at the max. It could have been there a while longer, but then again, all this.
And so the one, and I'm going to say that there was, and to kind of answer the question here, I mean, to me, a good audio recorder is anything that's got an XY capability.
Yeah.
That's a microphone direction.
Yep.
So
yeah, me and David, we both have Zoom audio recorders.
The omnidirectional,
Yeah, we both have Zoom, and they're great devices. But I
have
other
recorders too. Besides Zoom,
my cheap one. My cheap one. I've compared it to my Zoom, my zoom. I have a nearly a $200 zoom, and it's excellent. Don't get me wrong, but I've learned that the charge on it don't last long if you keep recording. Maybe it's just I need to get better batteries. I don't know, but my cheap one, which I paid just under $30 for, will last a whole week.
Hook it up to a battery pack. That's what I do with some of my cameras.
Yeah, but my cheap one that
our cheap recorders last all night on battery power.
Yeah,
but the zooms don't. I guess it's just the way they're made.
Right? They use a lot more energy, a lot more juice. I guess
I got to hook mine up to a battery pack when I set it out for overnight recording. We'll leave our recorders out early evening till next morning, and then go back and review it all night long. So
yeah,
so the one orb, I mean, I'll call it an orb, right? A light source. So the one in New Mexico was round. I mean, that was like couldn't get any more round than a basketball. The next one was more, and nothing really happened here from like a Bigfoot standpoint, but this light that we had seen, and this was in actually the Sam Houston National Forest in Texas. And this is where this light source was more oval. I mean, almost to the point like it came from, a early 90s Cadillac tail light. That's how big and bright, and this was more red. This came on again as soon as you acknowledged it that it came on, and it was there, and it came off. But this was maybe 200 or so yards, like not 200 yards. I would say like 100 or so to 120 yards away. But again, more of a flat plain area in a forest line. You see this kind of light. That had definitely a little bit more of a reddish pinkish hue to it. And we were there. This wasn't supposed to be the spot that we were supposed to go to in Sam Houston. And I tried looking this up, and I'm going to mention it just in case anyone else can, do their investigation into it. But there was a torn up camp that happened in Sam Houston that was actually investigated by the FBI, which we couldn't actually go to the campsite that we wanted to. We had to get pushed off to like Grand Central Station with the toilets there and the showers and all that stuff. So we actually couldn't go camping to this one spot. And so I always thought that it was a very interesting piece of information to have been told, just because when there was this torn up camp, it turned out to be like, well, then why is this camp torn up? And we started getting into like the Bigfoot behavior. Why would something want to tear up a camp? That's typically not what they do. Was it maybe more of a drug related, destroyed camp and something happened and, that's why the FBI was there? Or was the FBI there because now there was an actual Bigfoot related? I mean, this again, it kind of gets in more of those kind of conspiracy theory side of stories, but it was an interesting side story to the fact that the only thing that happened on that trip was this more oval, elongated, reddish light.
So you've seen another light. So you've had that experience twice then. Pretty neat.
I believe so. And this was actually where multiple people saw it. Again, even the one of the Bigfoot leaders there, or BFRO leaders, but everyone just kind of shrugs and is like, well, yep, that's awkward. That's not quite what we're looking for, but like, let's.
And you can't pinpoint what it is, where it comes from, and what it's evolved with. But there's people that will be firm and say, no, that's Bigfoot related. I mean, you don't know that. I mean, as far as that, you got to stand back, rationalize. You can't explain what you're seeing. You just try to find answers as to what is it, why did you see it, and if you can make any kind of discoveries along the way, just continue researching about what's happening out there. I mean, I find it fascinating.
I mean, there's always that possibility there could be a connection, but that's why I like to throw it out there too. There's always that possibility. So.
All we can do is tell people what we see and what we experience. They can make their own conclusions. If they don't believe us, they don't believe us. They can say what they want. I ain't got no feelings to hurt. You know, I got no ego to bruise. I mean, we all experience, but we just don't have any answers as to what we experience.
And to that point, David, I think the experiential side of life is going to be more important as AI gets more and more robust. You know, I saw something the other day that was saying that, you know, pretty soon, and if not now, we can't believe our eyes.
You know,
and
you
so
can't do it now.
Right, exactly. So what I would say there is, like, at least in the real world, you can go out and potentially have these experiences and not say it's AI. You can't trust your phone anymore on your media world to say, oh, yep, this is definitive proof. Like, I think in some ways it's kind of hurting the ability to capture anything on video anymore because everyone's just going to think it's AI.
Exactly.
But at the same time, it's actually also forcing people, I think, to get out there in nature, to get out, go camping, talk to people who have had experiences, if you're interested in experiencing something like this yourself. But it's the big kind of, if you're a naysayer and if you say this is a bogus topic, it's like, well, and either you just don't want to believe or you're not interested in it, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But if you are, you got to get out there. You got to, you know, you can be that kind of armchair, you know, expert or armchair explorer, if you will. And like, that's totally fine. I do it myself now with a growing family and things like that. You know, you read books or whatever. But getting out there is, I think, is where it's going to push people to have their own thoughts and experiences. And I think regardless of audio footage, unless you just are simply trying to do it for yourself and never let go of that growl that you might be able to catch.
95% of people don't get out of the backyard.
Yeah, that's right. However, there is a good opportunity depending upon where you live. If you look at your backyard, you could see one diving in, you know, dumpster diving for food.
That is true. Yeah,
So,
most people just.
You can go in town and see the locals do that here, not you.
Yeah. You're going to have your naysayers, and it's a shame the vast majority are. They don't want, whether it's Bigfoot, any kind of cryptid, or even just paranormal in general, they don't want to be taken. They don't want to be taken out of their norm.
Right.
They want their life the way it is. They don't want to have to think about something else that's going to mess up their being. You know,
and that's, you know, I have to say that, you know, there are times, and I'll get to another story later on, but of a baby that I have on audio recording, which I believe is a baby Bigfoot in a tree blowing raspberries or bubbles. But as far as like the psyche and things like that and the experience, it's like there are times where I do question myself, you know, if you do capture something or see something, how is that going to mess with you long term? Because, you know, there are definitely those stories and experiences that people have had very, 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 very close encounters with these creatures, and it messes them up into the point where like some of them need therapy. They don't ever want to go in the woods again. You know, I hope that's, if I do ever get to see one, I hope that's not the reaction that I have. But then again, it's just knowing that they're there. And as long as you kind of know that they're there and that it might happen, I think perhaps that could help you.
I think from me personally, I've seen stories of people tell the stories where they get PSD and stuff from it.
Yeah.
My train of thought is I think a lot of them, it was early on in what they were doing at the beginning. And it happened so quickly, or they was caught off guard, not expecting to even come across that, not even researching it and seeing it. Then they have PSD, like hunters. You know, they never thought about it all their life. And one day they see it, they don't go back in the woods hunting again.
Right.
But I think the more time you spend in the woods and doing your research, psychologically, you're going to be more prepared for that. So different from me and her being in the military. You train for that. It's like training. And then when you encounter something that's could be deadly, dangerous, or whatever the case may be, you're psychologically prepared for that to accept it and rationalize, you know, what you're going to be doing. that's my viewpoint.
Yeah, well, and all the points of when we were novice going out there in our first expedition, and that we were not prepared mentally because we didn't know what this really was. We didn't think anything of. I would have bet money on the fact that I would have not had an experience, right? Here we are getting a tree pushed down. The other one out in Mount Hood, Oregon, where we were out with another different investigating group. I was actually with Cliff Barrickman at that time.
Oh, cool.
And he was kind of doing some expeditions there. And so got to work with him a bit as well and got pretty close. But there was I want to say that was the time where we were also with Tom Powell. Mm-hmm. I think he was with us. Mm-hmm. And for those who don't know Tom Powell, a great Bigfoot researcher. He has a few books out there.
Yeah, my friend Nikki. My friend Nikki Colon from Texas. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was part of her group that met up out there in Oregon or Washington. They did. It was Washington, I think. They did an expedition camp out up there.
Yeah. He's out that way. And it was that first night was also interesting because this is where we were again, maybe 15, 20 people. We saw this ball in the sky making its rounds. I mean, and it was low. It wasn't a satellite. It was too high to be a plane, too low to be a satellite, just kind of making its rounds. And like, we were all just kind of admiring it and looking at it. It had a whitish color to it, but not what we were looking for. But that was the first night. But then the second night, we actually went down this path, and this was when we were ready, or at least I was ready as far as audio, night vision. And so what they don't tell you about the downfalls of night vision is that it's all good. It's all great when you can see through it. As soon as you take that down from your eye, you are blind.
Yep. I know this.
You could have that on the lowest setting, on the lowest brightness, and you take that down from your eye, you are done.
Same thing with some of the thermals. Thermals do the same thing. Yep. Yeah.
It takes a couple minutes to get your eyesight back. Your vision.
It's kind of a double-edged sword there. So I was holding on to, again, brought a family member, and I literally was holding on to them to like guide me down this path because I was just hell bent on keeping this up on my eye. Didn't want to miss a thing. We go all the way down, and kind of once we circled back and said, okay, we've been walking for about an hour and a half now. We're going to go back this way. What was again very interesting is there was very little wind to no wind, but there was a bit of moon, right? And I felt lucky. And as we're kind of walking back to meet up with the larger group, and at this point it was just myself, Cliff, family member, a woman, her name is Barbara, and another fella, one of my friends, I think. And so we were all together. And notice the similarities, though. We were 5 group in New Mexico, split off 3 and 2, and then this group again, we were 5. And so once we kind of walked back, we hear this one. One of my buddy, he actually did a tree knock, just like Bill did a wood knock, and nothing happened. Well, he did a tree knock and nothing happened. And then we might have walked another 20 feet, and then you hear this tree, and it just kind of starts swaying. And we all looked up, and we kind of backed up, and family members trying to kind of look up there and see if he could get any heat signature, which he kind of did. But for those who might not know, trees carry heat, so it's all kind of blobby. But yet something is standing out more than the blobbiness. And of course, I've got my recording going. And sure enough, and I actually, if you go to my Instagram, Pine Shadow Design, you can kind of flip through some of my posts, and I actually have it on there. And you hear this, very kind of this, what I would consider and what I'm calling this baby Sasquatch blowing raspberries or bubbles up in this tree. And I even said, do you hear that? And I think you might even hear Cliff on recording go, no, what is it? And I was like, it's blowing bubbles. And it does it again. And it did this twice. So it wasn't a whole lot. And you really have to listen to kind of hear it. And of course, I don't have all the high-end audio cleaning equipment. So you really got to listen. But it's there. I think it's there. And I actually show in a diagram how it was there. And so you kind of hear initially the wave form, if you will. So that was kind of an up and down and then a down. And so this, to me, we all kind of huddled somewhat around this tree. But one part of the story that I had forgotten, and my apologies, so I'm going to take this out of sequence. But as we were walking down Initial Trail, there was this loudest, what Cliff was saying was a barred owl, and he knows more than I in the forest. But this was the loudest R2-D2 whistly sounding alarm whistle type of thing happening. And like just this weird thing. And I was like, and it was also like a hoot. I can't do it because I'm not whatever this thing was. But I almost sent me, David, to kind of your point on like PTSD. It almost sent me into like a shock and like a bit of like a anxiety attack, because I was like, oh my gosh. And the initial feeling that I got was we're in the baby's den. Like we are, that's the alarm to like mom and dad come back or baby run up the tree. Like, but we've hit this alarm. So I forgot to say that. And so as we were coming back and then to have this kind of baby thing happening, I was like, oh, this is all making sense. You know, like this was the nursery is what I was also calling it. Like, that's the nursery, like we're in it. And so as everyone else is kind of looking up the tree, I'm trying to scope around and make sure that we're not about to get clobbered by mom or dad or big brother or sister or something. And we kind of walked away. We left Barbara sitting with the tree, this infant, is what I'll call it. And, you know, and sure enough, she had like baby toys with her. So that just was so serendipitous that she actually had like a little rattle, like little jingly things. And she was saying things very sweetly in a very like motherly, loving tone. Are you okay? How are you? What's your name? Like, are you there? Do you want to say hi? I'll just I won't bury the lead here. Nothing really happened after that, but it was one of those things where there was definitely something in a tree making it sway. There was no wind. And I even had to go back and see like, what are things that could make a bubble blowing sound? It's really only primates like chimps, humans, or maybe a horse. And like, it ain't a horse up in the tree. So unless it's a primate or it's a Bigfoot. So that's kind of where I feel as if I've got that recording of that baby Bigfoot blowing bubbles in the tree.
Okay, it's just for clarification for those watching and whatnot, you say sounds like it's blowing bubbles. Are you saying like it was like a language?
No, like babies kind of make their
You know how babies blow raspberries and
yeah. Because some
Yeah.
people might visualize blowing bubbles. You know, that's why I just want to clear.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's what I
like
the
the lips go
visualization that I had. Like,
blowing through their lips. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which in a way could be like a language too, I guess. I mean, you never know. Communicating with a parent maybe somewhere nearby. I mean, I don't know.
But those were after that, I did some expeditions in Iowa, in Wisconsin with Doug Hychak, and it just nothing ever really amounted to those two experiences, but I've got a long Bigfooting life career ahead of me. And so, but and then from that, this is where I got really into, the book side of things, wrote a children's book, started doing more book collecting, because that's at this point, again, trying to raise a family. That's about all I got time for, is reading a book at night. Oh yeah, thank you, sir. So this is Billy Finds Bigfoot. This is really an homage and a very, if I can dive into this, if you don't mind, Daniel, but
yeah, absolutely.
This all, again, kind of started with Harry and the Hendersons. So you're going to have that heartfelt kind of, it's a, I don't know, romance, if you will, with a Bigfoot story, in the sense that there's this boy Billy. He loves nature, and there's a lot of life lessons that I try to share here, and some of which are even perhaps a little bit challenging for even adults to learn, like never, as example, taking for granted what you have in front of you, and the relationships that adults have. I think that's a very hard lesson for us to kind of have. And so I'm trying to kind of teach that through here, because Billy's on a mission to find this white fox until he realizes that there's this Bigfoot, and he's trying to tell Bigfoot that he's trying to find this white fox. And I'm sorry if I'm giving spoiler alerts, but ultimately, when he comes home, his mom and dad tuck him into bed and say, well, we know that you're trying to find this very rare white fox, but in fact, there's this even more rare creature out there named Bigfoot. And then Billy realizes that, oh my gosh, I didn't know that there was this Bigfoot, that I was talking to Bigfoot, that it was helping me see all the things in the forest. And it's a great read. So if anyone has littles or children in their life, it's a great quick read. Great for bedtime stories.
Cool.
And I'll throw this out there for those who are watching and listening right now, right through YouTube. If you're interested in this book, if you go into the description of this live feed, or later, or anytime you're watching this, there's a link to the book in the description right now. So check that out.
Thank you, Dennis.
Cool. Absolutely. So, later on, if you continue on with the research and continue going on some of these, camp outs or expeditions, you might have to write a new book eventually where Kev found Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's true. I do have this kind of, I am on the start of a second book. So if there's any agent or publishers out there, that's called Is It Real or Not? About two boys who are in the Pacific Northwest who do happen to come across this, and they see it but then they're given a figure, which like a stick figure, which I think is very interesting in the Bigfoot culture. If anyone hears any stories about that, and the gift giving, it also has a bunch of mystery, and so if anyone's interested, please reach out. But yeah, that's it. Definitely a lot more.
Now that book there, is that the one that's published with through Hangar Publishing with
Hangar Publishing? So that's my children's book. They are moving, from what I'm told, is away from more of the fiction side of things, which is great. I think we need a lot more nonfiction material out there and people's experiences and the stories. So that's where I was like, well, I still got to write my fiction. So if anyone's interested.
Okay. Yeah, because I know you've been connected, and you've been on Doug Highcheck's podcast as well, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I never got to speak to him or met him. I mean, he seems like a pretty cool guy. I mean, he produces Monster Quest, and I've been watching his new season, so he's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was able to go out with him in Wisconsin here. A buddy of mine, Levi Makovich, which I always kind of have to give him a quick plug. So he actually has a book called The Sasquatch Paradox. And this actually really delves into the complexities surrounding the existence of Sasquatch, exploring both like the scientific and the philosophical implications of the belief in this creature. And it's written kind of like a college thesis. So he really puts it out there that like, it's not a suit, and here's why. It's got to be a creature, and here's why. It's got to be this Bigfoot, and here's why. So I'm just plugging him. But yeah, Matt Dog did had a night Bigfooting with him in Wisconsin, and Levi has stories, and I'll just kind of share some of his, where he would have acorns thrown at him here in Wisconsin. As far as his Bigfoot experiences have kind of gone, and I was hoping to have that, and this was maybe about 3 or so years ago, but nothing like that happened to me yet. I know that Jay Bachochin, also Finding Jay, is in this kind of our area as well. I met him a couple of months back, and very interesting stories that he says about how nature's alive, and if you talk to nature, talk to the forest, it'll kind of open itself up, type of sentiment. And it's all true. I mean, I kind of get back to this: getting out in the woods, having your own experiences, meeting people like yourselves. Go with a group, go with your best friend, whomever you feel safe with, and it's important to get back to roots and get back to nature.
Right.
As much as we're on a podcast, but it's also good to put the cell phones down and put all the social networks away to just to hear what the forest has to say to you. I think it's so important for us as humans.
Oh,
daytime and nighttime is two different worlds. Yeah. And then that transition from day to night, when that darkness slowly comes over, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Because at a point, the forest is alive during the day, but then during the transition, it gets quiet, and then it gets loud again, because then the nighttime animals are coming out.
That's right.
And it's really neat.
But for those that do go out there, if they get started off, like he says, go with people that you're going to be safe around, but research where you're going, be safe, take baby steps. You don't want to get out there and get lost, get hurt, and then, especially if you go in primitive areas where you don't have cell service, let people know where you're going, when you're going to come back. If you don't show up, they know to start come looking. As far as that, just have fun, enjoy it. Just think safety about it, because you don't want to be one of some of these missing people. I don't know if you're familiar with 411 or not.
I was going to bring that up, David. Yeah, that's exactly where my mind went.
Yeah, you don't want to
become on Netflix.
That scenario.
Yeah, it's and they really portray that movie to make it seem like something is taking someone. And it's kind of alien, it's kind of Bigfoot. Again, for my peace of mind and for my sanity, I suppose, I would just hope that Bigfoot's more of that flesh and blood creature, this bipedal, ape, if you will, North American bipedal ape. I hope it's not this alien shapeshifter, tunnel or
you never know,
portal jumper. It would blow my mind, right? And it's scary. It's a scary thought, and
yeah, it is.
And this is where, when you're kind of raising a family like I am, they rely on me. I got to come home. I got to come back whole, in mind and in body, all of that, right?
Yeah. But again, we don't know what's going on out there. I mean, people spend their whole entire lives in the woods, certain areas hunting, also come up missing. Or they find different things. They might find a weapon, the body, the clothing are gone. I mean,
do you think that we as a society don't know what's going on, or individually we might not know what's going on, or would you say that maybe the government or a higher entity of knowledge source might know?
Honestly, based on reports, what you see, what you read, what you hear, I don't think society as a whole knows what's going on. It could be maybe the government knows more than what they're telling.
I mean, you were both in the military.
We don't know. We don't know, but it happens. People come up missing, is never seen from again, or they come up missing, then show up days or weeks later.
Yeah.
Yes,
and to them,
and I was going to ask about that, but
retired.
And to them, it's like they wasn't gone.
Well, yes, and then there's some cases where their clothes are miles away, and then they're found naked, just wandering in the woods.
Yeah, I mean,
and then there's clothes aren't ripped and things like that.
We don't know. There could be many different avenues that could take.
Well,
I don't want to be part of it, but it's not going to stop me from going in the woods. I mean, that's if I don't come back, then kumbaya.
Then Melissa knows.
Well, if we're out in the woods and I come across Dave with no clothes on, I'm getting on the radio. Melissa, come dress your husband.
That will never happen. That will never happen.
Not on purpose.
Yeah.
Well, there are. Why I was asking about the military background is because there are plenty of stories with military personnel having experiences, and even with stories with the Mount Hood eruption, or excuse me, Mount St. Helens eruption, and military being in there and actually removing Bigfoot bodies from that area. For being a military background, this is actually the first time I get to ask a military background person, like, do you believe, partake? What's your?
I was a part of that aspect of it. Those that are usually the special ops type would get involved in stuff like that. I do know that there's been reports written by certain special ops groups, whether it be special forces or rangers, going out on recons and stuff like that. Some having their own experiences, and some actually being sent out to investigate to see what they can come across. Now, I don't know the outcomes of those.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Roswell with the UFO, they come out saying crashed spaceship. Next day, no, it's a weather balloon. Come on. Now, the military just don't come out and say it's one thing and they change the story the next. They got caught with their pants down. They should have said it was a weather balloon to begin with.
They got caught naked out in the woods.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But I mean, there's just so much going on out there but then again, look at if Congress is now having people look into the UAP aspect. I don't know why they changed the name from UFO to UAP. It's one and the same.
Yeah,
it's like they're trying to dumb it down a little bit. But if they're going to the extent to talk to these people that's supposed to be doing the research, I watched a couple of hearings on TV. You got these high officials looking into the UFO stuff and reportings and whatnot. And then one of the senators asked these guys researching, did you go back and look at the Roswell incident? Have you gone back 10, 15 years looking at reports? Well, no, we're just looking at present day stuff because it's based on what the military has been putting out, TV and stuff right now for the last 15, 20 years. Well, pilots catching their stuff.
You're going to have a lot more of those UFO, UAP, I think, experiences and things on video because people can look. The nighttime sky is not secluded to those who are, just in the forest. Whereas the Bigfoot experiences, you have to go into a forest.
Correct.
And to kind of, there's this, the theory of Bigfoot's being able to, that they're in this, they can travel through these portals and they kind of come in and out. And one question is simply raised that, is a very valid, logical point is like, well, why do we never see him in a city then? And it's like, well, yeah, that's a good question.
It's controlled. If it happens, it's controlled.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, that's a great.
Either by them or somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, also to avoid, if that entertaining the thought, if that is factual information, if that's what they do, then it would only make sense that they are trying to avoid population or let's stay away from the cities, But
yeah, Well, and it just kind of goes back to, again, my thought of never. You can't dismiss someone's story. There's, and I was kind of share this one where there's a story where someone had said that they saw a Bigfoot coming out of a UFO that was handcuffed to a briefcase and wandered off in the woods, and it's like. If that's your recollection of what happened, like I can't dismiss that. I don't know if I can partake in it, but like I can't dismiss it. And you just kind of have to put that over here in the paranormal unexplained side of things. But then again, it's like I kind of come back to the fact that I'm hoping that this is a more flesh and blood creature that just happens to have that much more intelligence than what we do because we can't observe it. We can't study it like a Jane Goodall type of thing. that's my hope, because anything outside of that, again, is going to blow my lizard brain. So,
well, we're not jumping off of a cliff, but my mind's open to anything. And until you get concrete answers, just get out and research and see what you come up with.
that's right.
Whether some people say they're interdimensional, they're flesh and blood, nobody knows. Supposedly, nobody knows. So get out and do your research, have fun, see what you can come up with. Put two and two together. You can't discount all the stories over the last couple thousand years from Native Americans on back. I mean, they have stories encountering beings like this.
Every continent, besides
and I can't. Yeah, I can't believe that everybody that talks about this are loonies.
Right.
I mean, to me, it's impractical. Now you're going to have those that's going to fabricate stories. They want that limelight. They're going to embellish on things. That's why you got different filing cabinets. You listen to the story based on what you perceive they're telling. You can put it in this drawer. You can put it over here in that drawer.
Right.
Put it over in that drawer. But I'm not going to ridicule anybody. I'm not going to put anybody down for this story because we don't know. You know.
Right. See, I'm the same way. I agree with David. I'm the same way because I've been doing a lot of filming and interviews with people, sharing their accounts. I'm not. I've gotten to the point. I'm not going to call them a liar.
Yeah,
you know, even I mean, most of the eyewitnesses I have been meeting up with, usually I feel like something don't make sense, but I haven't been feeling that way with these people. I feel like they've really seen and witnessed something. So, and plus, I want people to feel comfortable. I want people to come forward with me if they have something legit. I mean, I want to hear it. I want to put the word out there for them. I want to document it. For not just to put the word out there, but we gather reports. I'm sure you're the same way. You pick up on other people's reports like we do. Especially here in Virginia, because Virginia is highly underestimated. There's a lot that happens that takes place here in Virginia. Yeah, everyone looks at the Pacific Northwest. Well,
they're everywhere.
They are here. I can promise you that, guarantee you that. But you got to be willing to put in the time to research it and look for it.
Do you think one will have to be put down in order for people? I mean, I get asked this question all the time. Do you think one's going to have to get put down for people to believe? And even if Big Brother or some government entity doesn't come and take that corpse, because that means a lot to the forest.
I think that would happen first.
The lumber side, but I mean,
I know the government getting involved in it.
That's right.
And me and Daniel's had this discussion before with the group.
Yeah.
If we would actually have a real encounter, and if we came up with physical evidence, one way or the other, would we report it?
I mean, I would love to document everything we see as much as
I don't know if I could report it officially, because
it wouldn't make no sense to, really, because
if the government gets involved. One, if people, you're going to have your loonies out there like mountain monsters. Oh boy, where we camp at, there was a bunch. They actually found one. They're coming, toting guns and everything else, running through the woods, yeehawing and driving the ATVs and everything.
A trophy for them.
I don't want that. I don't want the government coming in and shutting areas. I don't want governments coming in shutting the areas down because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, look what California did when they had those fires by not letting water come down because of little bitty fish that they were trying to preserve. There's other ways to preserve wildlife, especially when you're talking fish. I think it's Achilles' heel if you come forward. Mm-hmm. But we're saying that now. Maybe there's a way to bring it forward to keep 80% of it unknown, but bring the facts forward. And let everything go on as normal, if that would be possible. I mean, I don't know.
I think the naturists, and I think the logging company, the logging companies would be in trouble to find out that there is a bipedal North American humanoid ape species out there. I think I think it would almost get political at that point.
Economical.
It could.
Economical. Like it's I think it's such a slippery slope, and and even if so, yeah, if you do, I'm not going to say his name, but there is someone out there who is saying that they have had a Bigfoot in their freezer for years and years, and it's just
I've seen that documentary. I think they had a documentary on that.
There's one.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah.
What they say is.
All right, I got to say the name. Wait, you're not talking about the dog trainer, are you? The veterinarian dog trainer guy.
I don't remember the name, but I remember the documentary I seen that claimed that 2 scientists actually came in and was drilling into the ice to see if they can get any kind of DNA from it and tissue samples and all that other stuff. And when they got to drilling in the ice, this is according to the documentary, when air got exposed to it, they could smell dead flesh. Then again, that could still be planted in there in a fake soup. You know what I mean? Just by putting beef meat in there. But shortly thereafter, when the scientists got done, then the thing came up missing again. If it's the same one you're talking about. But that's a documentary I've seen. They haven't seen it since. So I mean,
well, there's one individual. A lot of people don't look to bring up his name because he has been well involved with hoaxing for years. And he supposedly put his dead Bigfoot body on tour, made tons of money on it. But I'll throw his name out there because I've actually been on podcasts with a guy, Rick Dyer. You're not talking about Rick Dyer, are you?
Let me confirm.
Rick Dyer from he's originally based out of Texas.
No.
Okay.
This isn't him.
Okay.
There's another fella who, again, I don't want to say his name.
No,
just
okay.
because
that's okay. That's okay.
It's dangerous. I think if there's not a scientific backing to this, and this is where I have gone on a few expeditions with the late Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, and he was. I think that's going to set back the Bigfooting community a couple of years, if not decades, just because of the amount of research and the scientific community ear that he did have. And for those, hopefully everyone on, with us knows who Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum is. I mean, he's been on every Bigfoot documentary since the early 90s.
That's too bad because I got to meet him a few times at a couple of local events not far from here, out in West Virginia.
Yeah, and David, I almost had another orb story for you, but again, my family member, myself, and Jeffrey were sitting on a log, and we were just watching this red light go back and forth, and didn't know what the hell was going on, and it was so bizarre and weird. And Jeffrey started laughing. He's like, "What in the heck is this?" But turns out it was the next group ahead of us passing their red headlamp back and forth. But we couldn't tell.
Wow.
And so it was just like we were just seeing this red dot bounce back and forth, and we couldn't explain it.
Now, did they do it on purpose, or they were just passing it back and forth?
They were just passing back and forth for whatever reason. So we had to chime in and ask, like, "Is anyone passing a red light back?" And like, "Oh yeah, that's us. We're looking for something." I'm like, "Oh my god!"
It happened. I mean, you gotta have a sense of humor too, because the last camp out,
you have to rule stuff out.
I was stalking my own trail cam I had set out. I had no glow set out, and I had one that had a red light that would glow set up at camp. And it was when they were out hiking that evening, and Mary looked over and seen the red glow come on.
Yeah.
And she thought it was some red eye shine way over in the field away from us. And I just looked over, I didn't see nothing. I forgot I had my trail cam on this tree up there where my tent was.
Yeah, right next to your tent.
I sat back down. When I was sitting down, she says, "There it is again." I looked over, I didn't see nothing. And then I said, "Well, the heck with this." So I stood up. When I stood up, then it came on.
Yeah.
What I found weird about it is it had about a 60-foot range. I had it probably about 90 to 95 feet away from where we were at the fire pit with the campfire. And I think what happened was when I was getting up and down talking to them on the radio with the campfire here, I was sitting here, and every time I got up, I guess the light cause it to react with my trail cam that I have set up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only thing I could think of it to be, because when I stood up again, I looked over and I seen it. And then way what she was describing, I was thinking, well, there is something over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get a hold of them on the radio.
We're nowhere near this.
They're over at the other campsite where nobody's at, where I was getting caught that static stuff. And I said, I got a hold of Daniel. Them. I says, anybody over there got their red headlamp on? Because we got some of them that would go white, red stuff.
Yeah.
And Melissa was over there. She had hers on. So I had Melissa way over way we need. There ain't no way we could see it, but
yeah, I was gonna say
walk circles over there to see if I could see her walking around. But we couldn't do that.
Yeah, because it didn't make sense to me when you asked to do that. So there's no way he's seeing anything over here.
Again, you got to rule things out.
Right.
So now here it wasn't her, so I started walking towards it. John's behind me, walking behind me, looking over my shoulder in case we run into something. And I get about maybe 10, 15 feet from my tent, and I seen that red light right there on the tree, and I said, Jesus Christ.
As it snaps a few photos of you, yeah.
yeah, I did. It's right there on video. We're walking up through there. Except I had to step for like one every 15 seconds. No, it was video every 15 seconds. 10-second videos every 15 seconds. And you can see us bebopping up and down through there and stuff. You got to have a sense of humor. I mean, so things are going to happen, and you got to have fun with it.
Well, and they can turn quick. It could be funny 1 minute, and then all of a sudden,
exactly.
Yeah,
but if science ever would get stuff like that, I mean, I wouldn't know which. I mean, if they knew how to use common sense and logic, they wouldn't have to change anything. Because in my mind, we've been here now going 300 plus years, logging and everything else. We've never disrupted them before if they're here. We've never had any problems with them. I mean, things that go on as normal as they are now without the government having to get involved to start shutting things down, putting rules and regulations into place. And for how long and by what means, which we don't know if that would come about. Just use logic behind stuff like this. People can still get out there. They've been doing it. I mean, I can't see them getting involved if that discovery was made. All of a sudden, just change everybody's life. I mean, I would hate for that to happen.
Even if the 411s are Bigfoot related, Sasquatch related, they're not doing anything to stop that.
Yeah. No. Because they don't have any concrete answers to what's happening. I think they're just writing off as people getting lost.
Yeah. Real quick about the Bigfoot, the missing 411. I mean, from what little information I know about that. Now, David Paulides, when he first came about the 411, program and everything, and what he's been putting out his books and everything. Now, if I'm understanding correctly, and maybe you may know more about this, Kev, but correct me if I'm wrong. But backing up. It wasn't only about Bigfoot. Bigfoot ended up coming along later on as a possibility for the cause.
It was I think the way it was made was to let the viewer believe what they want to believe, whether it was alien, whether it was Bigfoot, whether it was something else, whether it was shapeshifters, then the idea of like people missing, and then I didn't know that this was a thing, but then talking to a really good friend out in your Mount Hood again, Washington area, in the Gifford Pinchot area in Washington, where it's like there's I want to say something like volcano pits or something to that effect,
right?
To where they're tens of feet deep, and it's like you could just fall in one and that's it. And you're never going to get out of it. And it's like, I mean, if that doesn't terrify you enough to never go out in the woods, I don't know what does, but it definitely led you to think, I mean, and the Bigfoot theme was there. And especially one of the stories where there was a child involved and they literally let the child go play just around the camp area. and you turn your head for a second, and now this child's gone. And like, as heartbreaking as it is, especially not having kids, it's like you can't take the forest for granted, and you got to know your surroundings, the animals that are there. I mean, this kind of goes without saying as an adult, right? But it's like the Bigfoot side of things. There's only been really one, story, maybe a handful of stories, like Albert Ostman being, picked up in his sleeping bag, thrown over the shoulder of a Sasquatch, and then now he's
I've always found that fascinating, that story.
Yeah, and and this was within the last century that this was captured. That this happened to this person.
Right.
I don't know what to quite make of those types of stories. Again, I can't doubt it. I can't naysay it because I don't do that to people. But I think what's interesting is like the idea of what did they do? And to your point, Daniel, when it's the facts, or it's the little details that people might say in their stories that say, oh, that's actually credible because it's been proven, or it's been said by many different people across the country of like, yeah, this happens and then that happens, or their teeth are kind of in this type of way, or they're this color, or whatever it might be, the skin pattern or skin texture, all of those things. It's just it becomes kind of harder and harder to disprove a story. And I was at recently a work event, and it was, I was brought over to a table, and someone introduced me. It was like, this is Kev, the Bigfoot guy. And I almost felt as if I was there to kind of like start to do a tap dance for him. But it was the idea of, okay, make me a believer type of conversation. And I'm learning that you can't make people a believer. You have to allow them to ask their questions. And as I kind of had said to David and Melissa, where it's like, you got to go out and you got to tell people to have their own experiences. You can't, it's one thing if they're kind of already bought in, if you will, but if they're not, anything that you say about the 67 Patterson Gimlin footage, they're not going to maybe understand. Anything that you say about even Jeffrey Meldrum, they're not going to understand. Or, locomotion in a foot, or the mid-tarsal break. And then I had an individual at the table say, well, what about the third and fifth, mid-tarsal break? I'm like, that's not a thing. Why are you trying to throw me off my game?
Right. Yeah.
It's one of those things where I think what's so important about this topic is that it's still exploring our Earth. Whether you're more into oceanography or the forest, like the ocean terrifies me. I'm not going there. There's deeps and depths of stuff. Nope, thanks, I'm good. That are bigger than Bigfoot. Like, I'm good. But like Bigfoot, I can handle, right? And so this is, it's just one of those things where it's so important to at least be open to what David had said and things like that. What is the, make sure you didn't miss a question.
But getting into
the idea of, it's so important for this to be a possibility, because I think it's going to help us learn about ourselves. And the fact that this thing, it has to have such a higher intelligence than us because it eludes us. It can be right in front of our eyes, and yet we don't see it. There has to be something going on that people are seeing in the forest and these creatures, of why they perhaps allow us to see them 1 minute, but then they don't allow us to see them the next. What's that all about? I mean, there's so many questions.
Well, I did some research here a couple of weeks back, just out of curiosity, of all the forests in the U.S. and Alaska. And at any given time, there's only about maybe 10% of the forest that people actually spend time in, because the majority of it's remote.
Yep.
And people cannot sit back and say that people's out there all the time. Well, what do you mean people's out there all the time? It's a big area.
Yeah.
Here on the East Coast alone, the George Washington, I have my notes. There's a lot of numbers here. The George Washington National Forest and the Jefferson National Forest combined is 1.8 million acres. That's 2,000, just over 2,800 square miles.
Yep.
That's these two forests. There's 128 forests in the U.S. Significant number located on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not counting national parks, in which is 63 national parks.
Yeah,
that's a lot of area that people do not get into, and that on a regular basis to explore. So much of it is really it's not visited, on a regular basis.
You can't. No, you can't. Rocks and thickets and thorns and the wildlife that lives there. There's just no way.
And the distance involved.
Yeah, I mean, in this, that's the acreage there is actually to kind of tie into this person's question about Skinwalker Ranch, where that's 512 acres.
Yep.
Out in Utah. I mean, that is a substantial amount of land, at least where I'm from. 512 acres, and the idea of to just kind of get into the Skinwalker Ranch side, and I will relate this to the different species of perhaps Bigfoot that are not species, but different kinds of Bigfoot that are out there. So Skinwalker Ranch is one of those really challenging stories and spots for me to get my head wrapped around, because this is a shape-shifting type of creature. I mean, dare I say, it can kind of go more demonic to alien side of things like that. What you don't get out of that from a Bigfoot perspective is everyone who ever sees a Bigfoot says it's either not a bear or it's a Bigfoot. It's not this horned or antler type figure or skeletal type figure. It's always going to be, it had shoulders, it had eyes, it had a nose, it had a mouth. Like, there's more human quality to that.
Right. Not like the Wendigo you were describing. Yeah.
And so, and the reason why that's kind of important as a geographical creature is because there are different shapes and sizes of this creature. There's different colors. There's different weight to this creature. Some are bigger and look like they could just snap a diameter tree of 20 inches in half with their fingers, versus the ones that are very tall and lanky and look like they have mange. I think that there's always that standard relatable figure of it was like a person, versus the Skinwalker Ranch, which is it's a shapeshifter, which is a terrifying thought to me. I don't want to come across that ever in the woods, so I'll just say that here. But then even to the demeanor, and perhaps you all have had your experiences with the different demeanors. I think in the South, when I did hear about that FBI investigated report where this campsite got destroyed, that to me was kind of made sense, because I hear these stories and have read these stories where in the South they're a little bit more aggressive and don't necessarily want anyone around, and if they do, they're gonna get mad and they might destroy your campsite. Whereas the Pacific Northwest, I think that they're perhaps a little bit more docile. I would love to hear more of your Virginia stories of what you think that demeanor is, Daniel, but they're perhaps another way in Virginia.
Well, before he gets into that part, me and Melissa, we have not really had per se anything related to Bigfoot happen yet, other than strange sounds. Maybe her getting hit with a infrasound at one time. But aside from that, not counting the paranormal side, strange things. But as far as the Bigfoot side, we're still have not had our experience to say, yeah, we've had that yet. A couple possibilities, but not like what Daniel's had, which he could tell you. But I'm gonna get a cup of coffee while he gives his insight on that. Good question, though. I mean, yeah, I think there's different types throughout, just like there's different types of people throughout.
That's right.
Skunk ape in Florida, apparently it's smaller than the one on the West Coast. Daniel knows more about that than I do.
I mean, I personally, based on not just my encounter, with 5 others that shared it with me. Just to briefly run you through that situation, and without getting into too many details. We believe we encountered a possible family unit. There were 3 different sizes. Of course, the largest one being pretty broad, around 8 feet tall. And then jumping ahead as far as comparing them to other eyewitness accounts. Here in Virginia, based off of what I've learned and heard and gathered from other eyewitnesses, they range anywhere from 7 to 8 feet on average here. Most of the stories I hear from others, they're about around 7 feet. 7 to 8 feet, but I believe 7 feet is a good safe number to go by. They all vary in sizes. Just like you're talking about, based off of regions. What Dave was saying before we jumped off, it was, you mentioned the Florida skunk ape. It's just like, people in all across the world, or, you got Asians and, Russians and, whatever you may have it. We're all different shapes and sizes. We have different orientations,
It's hard to get when you were saying the sizes. It's like,
yeah.
But what's really hard for me to chew are the ones where they're 12 feet plus.
Yeah.
You're almost talking about like a baby giraffe size. Mighty Joe Young type of baby King Kong, like hopping through the forest. It's like
I agree with you. Yes.
Can't dismiss it, but like how would that even be possible? The amount of food, but then just recently there was a fellow that I became pretty interested in, Kevin Lang. He shared his story where he was out hunting, and he actually, there was this baby Bigfoot, but yet the story, I was driving, and what it sounded like was that this baby Bigfoot, because it was kind of whimpering for food, was like 12 feet tall, 8 feet tall, but like it was kind of a baby. It didn't quite track, but it was the idea that like if you're hugging something 12 feet tall, you're hugging like its thigh, if that. Like
right. Yeah.
But it's a very interesting story in the way in which he actually befriends and feeds this Bigfoot and brings him in closer to share this deer that he, shot and cooked. And so for all those who are Kevin Lang it's a very interesting story. I'm not gonna, spoil it for anyone, but like it's just a very interesting story, and there's the connection there. And I think it could be possible. And we talk about kind of like the gift giving that's happened. When I went on an expedition in Colorado with Dennis Foll, he kind of shared his experiences with the gift giving in the BFRO, and kind of the experiment of like trying to get this Bigfoot family closer by serving them pancakes. And it actually brought them into the camp, and there's perhaps some footage that they captured. But I think it's still one of those things where 8 max and demeanor and how it relates to you, and I don't know if it's like habituatizing is a possible thing. There's those out there who say it's possible by kind of gift giving or feeding, putting an apple on the same location, on a Wednesday. Every Wednesday you put an apple on a rock and let's stay in the middle of the forest, and if it goes away and you put it again there on a Wednesday and it goes away, chances are that could be a Bigfoot that you're starting to habituatize into thinking that there's always going to be this apple on this rock on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well, you could also train an animal to do that too.
It could be a squirrel.
I mean, that falls under principles of conditioning.
Yeah, it totally does.
That's my thought.
It's different, perhaps, if it's consistent. That's where I would start to say, well, then what's going on? And then there are stories too, David, where there's gift giving, but then there's gift giving back in stick figures, or any type of a twig wrapped in rock, or even just a rock. Like that's where that shifts.
Feathers.
Yeah, right.
One of our group members up at Elkhorn Lake a few years back had something like that to happen. If Danny wants to tell him about that.
Yeah, you're referring to Dale, right?
Yeah, Dale.
He had one particular spot we camped at, and the other research area is, we used to experiment and play around with things. We decided, we had some rock stacks up behind the creek bed that was partially dried out in areas behind us. Well, Dale, one of our guys that camped with us, which I believe he plans on coming back with us in May. He came back into the area, visited a location, and he walked behind the camp and found something behind where we had left one of the rock stacks. Now, keep in mind, there was a couple of down trees that was going over the creek bed. And again, that part of the creek bed, on the most part, was dry. But he came across it. He showed us pictures of it. Or did he actually show us? Was it just, I don't remember, was it just a picture, or did he actually, I think he only had pictures of it.
Yeah, he did not keep it. He regrets that he didn't keep it. But no, all he did was photograph it, and then he kind of put it right back in the same spot again. It was in the area where we had stacked all those rocks.
Right.
They're on the log.
Yeah, because what was interesting about that, well, first of all, let me say what he found looked like a woven reef, like a reef that was like handmade stuff that was in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, it's funny that he saw that, because I came across something just like that, maybe a few years or so, or maybe longer, in another area, way out of this area, down, like Melissa and David, if you're familiar with the Lyndhurst area, going down where the forest connects to part of the Blue Ridge Mountains there. Well, anyway, I was in an area where I found a couple of interesting structures and formations, but I just so happened to be walking in the woods and look down, and here's what we would describe as what looked like a reef.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like it was made from like vine type material that was woven together in a complete circle, laying there on the middle of the ground. But when he saw that, that's what it reminded me of. It's like, wow, okay, is somebody doing that? I mean, that's a possibility. Well, we can't say that it's not somebody doing that. But
in Sam Houston, Daniel, we had another interesting moment, was that we actually did come across like a nest, almost like a tree structure, and we called it a cathedral because there was one arch built on top of another arch, and it just was woven in such a way where it just kind of made it seem impossible for humans to do, but yet we're there, so who knows. I'll never forget this, though, and I will say that this goes back to the respect of nature and these creatures. There was a member there who then decided to relieve themselves on this cathedral structure, and just to kind of make this Bigfoot mad or whatever, if that's what that was going to do. Like, just respect what you find in the woods, for those who are listening. And so when you didn't take it, Daniel, was that because of, was that out of respect, or was that more so of like, oh, that's weird, I'm going to leave it there, take a picture of it, document it?
No, I mean, I just didn't know what to think of it. I just thought it was something that somebody made, and they either dropped it or left it there. I mean, the one I found, not the other gentleman who found one from our campsite. But I don't know. I don't know. It's like, whatever. I'm just going to leave it there. I just didn't think much of it, really. But,
yeah.
So,
could you tell if there was any? I mean, was it shiny to where it could be like? Did it look like it had glue on it? Was there any?
Oh no, this was definitely woven.
Hard cut.
The one I found.
scissor markings or.
Well, some of the natural vines in the area where the one I found, like I said, I recognized the material where it came from. It was from the woods. I mean, it was definitely something that somebody took the time, somebody or something had taken the time to wove in and branched together this round, complete circle of vine wood. I call it vine wood, and it was some vine wood. It gets up to an inch or two thick. This was not even probably a quarter-inch thick to a half-inch thick. As far as the vines that was made from. But so yeah, I just it was. I don't know. I mean, thinking back on it, I don't recall me thinking anything. I actually got a picture of it. I mean, I did take a picture of it because I thought it was interesting. But
Daniel, I just sent you through Messenger. I just sent you the 2 pictures that Dale had taken. One of the log and the other one of the wreath part, the braided thing. So I don't know if you will be able to open them or not, but I just sent them to you on Messenger.
Okay, give me a second here.
17th, 2023 is when yeah.
All right, yeah. When I click on the picture, I mean, I see them, but when I go to click on them, they're not appearing.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at them right now on Messenger, but like I said, if I click on them and try to save them, they won't show up. Now, based on the picture of the round reef that Dale found, it looks like it's the same material. It almost looks like identical to the same material to the one I found. Of course, the one I found was probably a little thicker and used with the same type of material. This vine, the one that's found here was definitely used with some kind of vine.
But that was thinner. In the area too. Like that's the same vine found in that area.
Well, the one found by Dale. This is many miles away. This is in our main research area. The one I found was probably about over 20-something miles away, 15 to 20 miles away. So, and also again, it's not.
Bring up on your phone. Right?
The one I found was in the National Forest. The one that I found was part of the Blue Ridge Parkway, the Blue Ridge Mountains, on the base of the mountain. So, yeah, like I said, a good 20 miles away easily, and a whole different time period too. But the one I was trying to pull up, the one that Melissa sent me, is the one that Dale found was a lot thinner. It was pretty thin. See, and when I click on it, it shows a black.
You're not be able to see it. I'm trying to show it, but you're not going to see it.
Yeah, it comes up super white.
Yeah. Huh.
But I'd saved them on my computer on my laptop, and I just resent
the screen's too bright.
JPEGs to you.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, if I knew we were going to be talking about that, I could have saved it and popped it up on the screen like I did his book.
You never know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting what stuff you come across out there, though. I mean, as far as you talk about structures and everything, I have come across a lot of interesting structures. And again, we a lot of people want to contribute it to Bigfoot. I want to do it too, but I can't because through my conscience, because I didn't witness Bigfoot doing it. And that kind of goes along with everybody else that said, "Oh, that's a Bigfoot structure." You don't know that. You didn't witness Bigfoot building that, because if you did, you'd be shitting your pants.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. That's just me, but I mean, we want to contribute what we find to Bigfoot, but because I mean, the structures that fascinate me are like teepee structures and anything that looks woven together, way off the beaten path. Which I've come across a lot of that. And I find it
that weather can't do naturally. As far as that, you have to have the thumbs to be able to put things together.
Because I have come across woven things that were twisted and combined. I got pictures of stuff like that, and it makes you really wonder what the heck did that.
And the one and the one that we came across, the cathedral again that we're calling it in Texas, then that was, I mean, it had a door opening. You could walk in it. You can kind of almost stand up in it, and I'm 6'1", so it's like it just was enough of a structure to say that one of those things where, well, it was either Bigfoot or it was a human. I mean, it's just A or B. Like you can't chalk it up to anything else besides that. I mean, that I don't know what else it folds twigs like that. Unless there's like a giant beaver cryptid that we've yet to discover, but that would be about it.
Now that you mentioned, no, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I ain't never heard of that one before, but
that's right.
Now that you mentioned it's going to be popping up now, probably that beaver cryptid. But again, you never know. It could be, but until you can nail it down, you can't say yay or nay to what's going on. That's why we like getting off the beaten path, where people normally don't go. If we find something off of a trail that we're walking on that people use to walk to the lake and stuff like that within 10, 15 yards or whatever, I can't. Because people's going to be out there trying to hoax people. And, that.
Well, I mean, and I always am on the side of, bring protection because you just don't know whatever happens in the woods. So you have to be protected. And for all those who are wanting to play that, play those jokes on perhaps the Bigfooters that are in your area, why mess with that? I mean, don't put people into situations where they're going to get spooked and use a weapon, and then you can get hurt, and then it's not worth it.
No, and that's why you got to know what people you go out with too. I mean, if you're with somebody that's kind of timid or whatnot, I don't want to offend.
Have them start, and you could always be behind them.
They don't need anything kinetic on them. Put it that way. As far as protection.
Well said.
We all take protection out there, but it's not for the Bigfoot. It's for the two-legged predators out there, which we know that people go out and stalk people for whatever reason, and the four-legged, because bears, we got black bear here and coyotes and bear attacks, black bear. It's very rare here, but you never know when you may come across a mother and their cubs. Which 9 times out of 10, if they know you're there, they're going to head off in a different direction.
Yep.
Or the rare predatory bear, which you got
cats, coyotes, wolves.
People don't realize if you start shooting at a bear, especially,
you're going to piss it off even more.
If you just wound it and it runs off, now you got another problem. Because other people's going to come out there. Now they may encounter a wounded bear.
Yep.
So you got people have to use common sense when they go out there. Start slow, baby steps, get comfortable in the area you're in. Like Daniel and everybody says, learn your wildlife, what's there, what to do if you encounter them, what not to do if you encounter certain things. Make your presence known. Even if you make your presence known, I don't think that will deter in any way you having your experience with the Bigfoot. Because they're used to people.
They know you're there. There's no way that you can go walking through the woods and the Bigfoots. I mean,
exactly. They're going to know you're there. If they get curious, you might get lucky enough having an encounter. Or you couldn't catch one off guard at one time. Now he's walking off or whatever.
Well, and there's the whole idea of going out at night and doing the thing that the Finding Bigfoot crew kind of had kicked off was going out at night, and I much prefer the daytime. I know what I'm walking on. I know what I'm walking around. I know what I'm about to walk, hopefully on, if it's a sleeping bear or something, whatever. Like
or rattlesnake or something.
Yeah, like it's
come across them.
there's a thrill going out at night. Your heart and blood will get pumping. But as far as a safety, it's like the best footage that we currently have of a Sasquatch, I think, is still kind of goes back, to the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin footage. But and there are others, right? There are others since then that are good before AI. And it's one of those things where it allows you to kind of get more familiar with the area. And when you're out at your camp at night, just kind of cooking food, singing, or playing music or playing a guitar, whatever it is, that's going to draw them in. And I'll never forget when Tom Powell was. We were out, this is when the whole group was out in Mount Hood kind of doing our thing. We're doing investigating. We're trying to get quiet and things like that. And you hear this off in the distance. You just hear this one guy singing this like, "Oh, brother, where art thou?" type of yodeling. And it's Tom Powell in the middle of the woods and just singing some, Mountain Hill song. And it was just like, it was eerie. But what he was doing was trying to attract them to him. And he was trying to make himself known, and he was trying to be vulnerable. And I think that that's a very, if you want to have that experience, you can make yourself very vulnerable in the woods by going alone and, singing songs, or, and what he would do is he would just bring out a cot and put a sleeping bag on it. And that's it. That was his tent. He didn't have a tent. It's like, I wouldn't recommend it myself personally, but like,
it's whatever your comfort zone is.
It's whatever, it's whatever
you're get out research, start in the daytime. Yeah, if you're not used to the woods, what's out there, don't go out there and just jump at nighttime. If you don't know the area where you're going and stuff like that, what you may encounter when you're out there after dark, because even though you go out in the daytime, you go out there in the nighttime, what you knew in the daytime, half of it's going to change anyway when darkness falls.
You're going to, you can't walk 10 feet and remembering what it was that night today. Yeah.
Yeah. If you start in the daytime and night falls while you're out there and you're trying to come back, if you're not familiar with the area, and they're going to look, unless you're on a specific path you can follow.
Yep. It'll disorient.
Yeah. Those shadows start coming in and hitting in the darkness, and that could be disorienting even in the daytime. For a lot of people until they get into a comfort zone of going out there. But that's why you got to take baby steps.
Well, it's like the location where me, David, and Melissa and our group where we camp at. I mean, when we go out at nighttime, it's totally cool. I feel comfortable. I feel, whatever. I mean, I can't recall 1 ounce of fear or any kind of nervous feeling I've ever had while we've gone out together as a group. But, the few times I've camped out there by myself, the venture alone, I don't care how many lights I have on me or whatever, even with a sidearm on me, I've gone out there, not far away from camp, up to by where we've had the strange light and stuff like that, just walking up there. It's a different feeling when you're by yourself, knowing that there's nobody else around you. I mean, all you got is your sidearm and a phone and a or whatever, camcorder or whatever you got, and a headlamp or a light that goes dead on you, like crap, and all of a sudden, all kinds of crap happens. The feeling kind of rushes over you, like you can't help it. It's a different feeling.
Feel already.
I've been out in the woods a lot by myself, but especially in like David and Melissa, I can go to Elkhorn Lake and walk the roads and the forest by myself at night. I've been out there enough by myself because I know the area so well. I just feel more protected out there for some reason. I don't know why, but this other area here to me it's a different ball game. Knowing that there's nothing but woods on top of woods on top of woods. We're
and in ridge line and everything else out there. I mean, it's a.
Because some of the things I've heard at nighttime make you really wonder. Like, okay, sure, I better stay close to camp. So
you don't have to go far. I mean,
right?
You just don't, and you can get yourself an Airbnb on the East Coast or West Coast or Ohio, and in the middle of the woods, and like you can have yourself an experience.
Absolutely, I've done that with in the past. We've me and old girlfriend, we've actually done that. In areas like this is so freaking cool. This was here in Virginia, but we were like surrounded by woods, and you got a view of the mountain up behind the cabin. You just don't know. I mean, I'm not saying I've had experiences that way, but just the fact that you're there and surrounded by woods, and you're in an area where like this is the perfect environment, perfect habitat. But it is whatever. But so
absolutely. It's all part of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, Kevin, I want to ask you a question. Do you plan on continuing your research as far as getting out there doing other expeditions with groups or anything like that?
Yeah. Like I said, growing family. I got to be here for them. I got to be whole, mind and body, right? But yes, and in fact, I'd like to get out to the East Coast. I've been kind of doing more of the West Coast side of things. I've also, shame on me for not getting out to Bluff Creek or California and getting back to Mecca, but like maybe over in California. So yeah, I would say California or the East Coast is kind of where I'm headed next. I've got a good friend who's kind of out in that New Hampshire area who says that there's things kind of going on in those forests.
Is his name Mike?
It's not. No.
I was asking. Mike Tinsley was one of our recent guests on here.
No, it's not. Nope. But yeah, absolutely. That's on the horizon for me, and also, I'm working on.
Any plans to come to Virginia around May?
You never know, but I got your contact info, and so like if it's open invitation, Daniel, like I will for sure reach out.
I can tell you, I can guarantee you, we are cheaper than the BFRO. We don't charge. Yeah. I know how much the BFRO costs. I know people that used to associate with the BFRO.
Well, and it goes, it's kind of what we're talking about. You don't need to pay.
Yeah.
If you want to go to some there and have a group of 20 to 30 people in the woods tromping around, like, you know what though?
Yeah.
I can't.
Our group's not even that big. What do we have? 8 to 10 people at it, maybe 12 people at the most, if that.
Yeah, and then most of the time we split up into groups, smaller groups anyway. If we have enough when we go out there at nighttime. Max we've had out there at nighttime one time it's been 4.
Right, we usually have a couple of people left back at base camp. Because a lot of them depends on who stays back at base camp. Their mobility is slightly limited based off of
and that's
or whatever. So
we had a
someone to operate the radio, because if there is an emergency for those that's out there in the woods, they need to be able to contact us. That way, if something does happen, God forbid, we can get in a vehicle and head down in their direction.
Yeah.
Eventually on our filming expeditions, as years go by, you'll start seeing our group members with walkers going down the forest road. I'm just joking. Let me stop.
I have to get more 4-wheelers out there.
Yeah. I know.
Now they make too much noise.
Yeah. No, we do 2 group campouts a year, May and September. But right now, I haven't set a date for September because I got other things I'm working on, and I want to be able to say what extra time I'll have after May to meet up with other people, do other investigations. That's something I'm working towards this year. But yeah, the invitation's out there to you, May 17th through the 26th here in Virginia. If that's something that might work out for you, so.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted on that. I appreciate the open opportunity there and invitation, and any chance I can, and just from a safety standpoint, things like that. You got to go with people that you trust. To your point, David. Other than that, I'm working on a script, like kind of a movie script about Bigfoot. There are a plethora, you come to find out on streaming services, all of these different Bigfoot movies, and they're all kind of like these schlock B horror films.
Yeah.
It's fun, and like, as much as I don't believe that these creatures are that way, of course, it's fun to write a script that way. So like, of course, that's what I'm doing. But it's also one of those things where there's a lot of, you don't need to get into this diatribe, but there's some bad Bigfoot movies out there, and like the whole Sasquatch Sunset Sunrise, that movie.
Yeah, I didn't even watch that. I don't think I want
to. I did, and it's
like, for those
I've
that
heard enough
don't
about
watch it.
Watch
It's so. I don't quite know what they were trying to, like, what their message was, but it made the Sasquatch look like drunk or like drugged ape men,
That were
like
perverted,
or
maybe.
cavemen, and like it just all the more reason where it makes like us researchers look even more the fool, and so
Right.
it's just not. I did not appreciate it,
And we're not going to get away from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
well, we almost did with Meldrum, and I think that there are those again, the more scientific side of this by tracks, by DNA. Those are hard proofs. And I know that even like Les Stroud is trying to kind of bring in a DNA side of things, but like the DNA folks that he was working with, like their building burned down or something, and now they moved. It's just like it's always this hard road with this topic.
Oh, now you mentioned Les Stroud. I didn't know he was involved in trying to produce DNA because I know he's very skeptical, but I feel like he's a believer to a point. But at the same time, he keeps a skeptical viewpoint on the subject, on when he's out there and everything. Because he said
Yeah, I
some
mean,
pretty cool stuff that I agree with.
He did a series, he did Survivor Man, but then
Right.
he did a full series of like Survivor Man Bigfoot editions.
Right, with Todd the standing involved.
So yeah, so good. And I mean, and so he was actually going to go in depth more in a documentary with Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, but his passing, I think that's causing a lot of delays. And so that's just, I think the direction in which the documentary was supposed to go is now kind of maybe taking a turn or a back seat. But there is a DNA portion of that.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think some of the even vocalizations that they've caught, they can't match them up to any known other wildlife type vocalizations they got on record too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I've seen on TV with some of those things where people get these vocalizations, they call it audio, they send them in and have them analyzed, and it doesn't match up to anything known.
Yeah. The biggest, like, yeah, so for the vocalizations, I mean, the Sierra Sounds was the biggest, best, kind of what's out there. On one of his episodes of the, Survivor Man Bigfoot, they do kind of replay back what's the samurai chatter that someone had caught. And samurai chatter is just basically is what it sounds like, type of thing. And so the language there, I think is I think it's something to be studied, that it has been studied. And so but I don't know if he's digging into that side of things. I mean, I think he's going straight for the DNA proof in this documentary.
Yeah.
As long as nobody interferes with him, because the back of my mind is when somebody starts to get close, if they haven't already, they get that phone call or that knock on the door to tap it down.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I've always found it fascinating with Ron's video capture of the Sierra Sounds and Ron Moorhead Sounds. I've always found them fascinating. That came back from the '70s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. That was on that was on a reel to reel. That's how it was captured.
Right, and I'm waiting for somebody to come up with something like that here on the East Coast. Because that's like, I mean, I'm not saying everybody speaks the same language. It's like some people speak Asian, some people speak Russian. I mean, that might be a completely different language out there than what we might have here on the East Coast. So, but it makes you wonder. I've heard people say, "Oh, I've heard what sound like samurai chatter in the woods." I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they heard, but it's like,
yeah,
is it the same language that the Sierra Sounds picked up? Versus, I don't know. It makes you really wonder. Does the North American continent produce? As far as the Sasquatches that live here, it makes you wonder: are they speaking the same language out there that they do here? versus what they might speak out in China or Australia or down in South America. I mean, they all have their own type of language.
Yeah.
But I've heard some people say, "Oh, they speak English." You don't. I don't know. I mean, makes you really wonder. So.
Well, and if you look up Scott Nelson, he actually did a
Yes,
bunch of
studies on the syllables.
yeah, like he broke this down into he did the research of the Sierra Sounds and like the alleged recordings of Sasquatch. Um and obviously he can't translate that, but he came to say that there's like irrefutable syllables and language and words being spoken, and like it's at actually a higher rate in which we speak. I guess we speak pretty slow, but these things when they say that's like that's a whole paragraph that they have now spoken.
Wow.
But Scott Nelson was he'd look into that. I mean, for those listening, that's a interesting analysis of the language.
Yeah, it's interesting how Scott came about that. It was. I don't want to say it was an accident, but it was based off of his son's something. His son was doing a project or something involved with something to do with school. His son happened to be playing that, and then he overheard it. Like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
From my understanding, I mean, I could be wrong on that, but that's the story I heard.
Yeah, no, it's probably true. I mean, yeah, he's given lectures and they're all over YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell you what, guys, we're getting to a point where it's we've been on here for a good 2 hours. Which I mean, I don't mind going longer. But
been that long already? Wow.
Yeah, it's been over 2 hours. This is pretty cool. I love that.
When you have in-depth conversations, it goes by fast.
Yeah. Real quick, Kevin, what time is it? Are you East Coast time, or what time is it over there?
I'm Central, so it's 10:15, 10:16.
Okay, so you're an hour behind. Okay, cool.
Are you anywhere near Milwaukee?
Stone's throw away.
I have a sister that lives up there.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Yeah.
She's lived up there for about 4 years now.
Very cool. Yeah, the Bigfooting kind of happens towards the Dells area.
Okay.
If you're familiar with that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I got certified in scuba diving back in '77 up in Kenosha, Wisconsin. That's where the shop was. Yeah,
say it again, David.
Like certified in scuba diving up there at the shop there in Kenosha.
Oh yeah,
Wisconsin.
okay.
Then we went to the Great Lakes, the Lake Michigan, for the actual dive part when I was in the military. That was back in '77. That was way back in the past.
He's old.
We're not going to say how old, right? No, I'm just joking.
I'm the only logical one of
We're
the
both
group.
older than you.
He's got to have common sense out there. That's why we're out there with him. we got to keep him from jumping off of that cliff.
Right.
I don't know. How old are you, Kev? You might be younger than me. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. I think it might be a scooch younger.
Are you 29? No.
Yeah, I'm 13.
Wow,
I'm
you started fairly young.
Not quite 40. Don't let the hairstyle fool you.
So see, he's younger than me. I'm 45.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
All of y'all just be quiet now. Let's move on to the next topic.
Combined, we could match David's age, right?
Well, if you want to match David's age, you know the story about Adam and Eve, right? No,
I wrote the first hieroglyphic, okay? Leave it at
that. We cut up on each other. That's how we are.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, you gotta have fun.
I'll tell you what, before we get out of here, Kevin, I want to give you the last words. I mean, anything you want to throw out there, share with the audience, anything you want them to know, anything you might have coming up that you want them to know about as well. So I'm going to turn it over to you before we jump off here.
Sure. Well, before I do that, thank you, Daniel and David and Melissa. Great to meet you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Great to meet you too.
Definitely would love to come back, and I'll definitely hit you up if I'm in Virginia, Daniel. I think that would be phenomenal. It would, mark something off from the East Coast, which I'm trying to get to. As far as things that I have kind of on the radar, again, kind of this, middle young teen book that I'm working on. Was it real or not? But then there was also the movie script that I'm working on. But then you can follow me on Pine Shadow Design. It's on Instagram. I also have a Etsy shop called Pine Shadow Design. To try to correlate those two. By all means, if you have littles in your life or children in your life, please grab a book. Billy Finds Bigfoot. It's a very, very nice read. Did all the illustrations, was the author of it. So please check that out. Dave.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate that, buddy. David is secretly a survivor from Atlanta.
Oh, Lord.
There's no replacement from experience, okay?
Excellent. And real quick, everybody, I want to remind everybody, so a lot of you guys, there's a good group of people that's been on the live chat that came on a little later. I highly recommend you guys go back and watch this and listen from the very beginning. Also, be sure to click the description of this podcast because Kevin's got a book called Billy Finds Bigfoot, and the description for that is in there. So if you got children, even adults, I mean, I think I would find that fascinating. I would buy it for myself. Of course, I would share it with my grandson. So check the description. The link is in the description for his book called Billy Finds Bigfoot. So check that out, and hopefully Kevin will come back and join us again in the future. So if you're listening to this on the rerun, excellent. We're also on ECBO Bigfoot Radio, found on any of your favorite podcast platforms. So next time, guys, we really appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Keep it squatchy. Thank you again.
All right. Thanks, all.
Absolutely. You guys have a good night. Keep it squatchy, everyone.